The rise of Islam. A brief history. Islam, the world's second largest religion, emerged in the 7th century from a region many then considered remote, the deserts of Arabia. Its founder, Muhammad, a merchant born around 570 CE in Mecca, began receiving a series of revelations around 610 CE in the cave of Hira from the angel Jibril, known in the Bible as Gabriel. These revelations would become the foundation of the Quran, Islam's holy book. The spiritual truth of Muhammad's message is a matter of faith, but his life and the movement he began would shape history in profound ways. At first, Muhammad preached in secret to a small circle of family and friends in Mecca. His message centered on strict monotheism, moral renewal, and the concept of Islam, submission to God. Over time, the followers of this new faith came to be known as Muslims. Eventually, Muhammad began preaching publicly and gained devoted followers, remembered as the Sahaba, his companions. His preaching brought him into conflict with his own tribe, the Quraysh. Soon, both sides were drawn into open confrontation. It was in this period that the idea of jihad took on two commonly cited meanings. First, the inner striving to live in accordance with God's will through personal effort and moral integrity. Second, armed struggle regarded as permissible by God under certain conditions. After years of struggle with the Quraysh, Muhammad and his followers prevailed. By the time of Muhammad's death in 632 CE, much of Arabia had joined the movement he founded. One of his closest companions, Abu Bakr, was chosen as the first caliph, the Prophet's successor. Under his leadership, and that of later successors, Islam would expand beyond Arabia and transform the Middle East and lands far beyond. Abu Bakr and his successor Umar directed Arab armies against the era's two great powers, the Sasanian Empire and the Eastern Roman, Byzantine Empire. Exhausted by decades of war, both were struck like thunder by the Arab advance. City after city in the Levant, Syria, Egypt, and Persia fell under Muslim control. The peoples of these regions, mostly Christians, Jews, and Zoroastrians, were treated as subjects of the new Arab rulers. They paid taxes, but were generally permitted to practice their religions freely. Forced conversions were comparatively rare. Active proselytizing was limited. As a result, conversion proceeded slowly at first. Until then, the Quran existed primarily as an oral tradition supported by various written fragments. Though the details are debated, under Caliph Uthman, the Quran was compiled into a single standardized text, the basis of the holy book used worldwide today. In 699 CE, Uthman was assassinated, and Ali, the Prophet's cousin and son-in-law, became caliph. But part of the community rallied behind Muawiyah, the powerful governor of Syria and kinsman of Uthman. This dispute led to the first fitna, a civil war within the Muslim community, the root of the later division between Shia and Sunni. Shia from Shi'at Ali, the party of Ali. Sunnis from Ahl al-Sunnah, the people of the Prophet's way. In 699 CE, Ali was assassinated by a group known as the Kharijites. The Umayyad dynasty seized power and moved the caliphal capital to Damascus. In 680 CE, the uprising led by Ali's son Hussein ended in tragedy at Karbala, where he and his small band were killed by Umayyad forces. This moment was pivotal in transforming Shi'ism from a political claim into a distinct religious tradition. Shiites would look for guidance to the Prophet's direct descendants. Sunnis would look back to the exemplary age of the Prophet and his companions. Amid factional conflict, the Muslim world entered the second fitna. Yet after a dozen years of turmoil, new conquests followed. By 692 CE, the Umayyads reasserted control over the Arab Caliphate and renewed the push across North Africa. Islam spread rapidly among Berber tribes, and it was a Berber convert, Tariq ibn Ziyad, who led Umayyad forces into Iberia. The great rock at the gateway to the Mediterranean took his name, Jabal Tariq, the Mount of Tariq, Gibraltar. Tariq defeated the Visigothic king Roderick and seized much of Spain. The Umayyad Caliphate now stretched from the Atlantic to the frontiers of South Asia. Yet most of its subjects were still non-Muslims. Across North Africa, Persia, and Central Asia, the ranks of new converts known as Mawali grew. Often treated as second class by elements of the Arab elite, they became a force for change. In 747 CE, a revolt broke out in Khorasan. The Abbasid family, tracing lineage to the Prophet's uncle al-Abbas, claimed leadership of the uprising. In 750 CE, they defeated the Umayyads at the Battle of the Zab and all but annihilated the dynasty. Only one prince, Abd al-Rahman, escaped to Al-Andalus, where in 756 CE he founded the independent Emirate of Cordoba. The Abbasids built a new imperial capital, Baghdad, which became a global center of learning. Thus began the Golden Age of Islam, marked by achievements in mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and engineering. By now, Shi'ism had fully taken shape and continued to spread, despite periods of persecution under Sunni rulers. Within Shi'ism, distinct traditions emerged: Twelvers, Imamis, Ismailis, and Zaydis. This era also saw the rise of Sufi movements, focused on inner spirituality and detachment from worldly concerns, though their earliest history remains partly obscure. By the 10th century, large parts of Persia, Egypt, and Syria had embraced Islam. Conversion brought spiritual commitment, but also practical benefits. Affinity with the ruling elite could ease trade, open networks, and elevate status. Even so, these regions remained religiously diverse, with substantial Christian and Jewish communities and smaller groups. For generations, Muslim merchants crossed the semi-arid belt south of the Sahara, the Sahel. Among their commodities were enslaved Africans, sold across the Caliphate. Following these trade routes, Islam gradually moved south. As rulers and elites adopted the faith, cities like Timbuktu, Gao, and Kano became centers of Islamic learning and culture. Across the Arabian Sea, Muslim traders established outposts along East Africa's coast in today's Kenya, Tanzania, and Zanzibar, turning ports into hubs linking Africa with the maritime Silk Road of the Indian Ocean. Vast commercial networks, overland, and by sea carried Islam into Central, South, and Southeast Asia. In Central Asia, a semi-nomadic Turkic people, the Seljuks accepted Islam under their leader Seljuk and forged an empire across the Middle East, conquering city after city. In 1055 CE, they seized Baghdad and became the Caliphate's de facto rulers. Under the Seljuks, political power was separated from religious authority. Sultans wielded military and political control, while caliphs and ulama, scholars, retained religious leadership. In 1071 CE, the Seljuk Sultan Alp Arslan defeated the Byzantines at Manzikert, opening Anatolia to Muslim rule. Christendom struck back. Pope Urban II called for a holy war to reclaim the Holy Land, and in 1099 CE, the Crusaders stormed Jerusalem. Crusader states arose in the region, though they remained religiously mixed. It was an age of political fragmentation in the Muslim world, with power divided among regional dynasties and movements: Seljuks, Ghaznavids, Almoravids, Fatimids. In the 12th century, the Kurdish commander, Salah al-Din Saladin, united Egypt, Syria, and Mesopotamia. In 1187 CE, he retook Jerusalem, a stunning victory and a turning point in the wars with the Crusaders. Since the 8th century, Muslim merchants and Sufi mystics had traveled deep into Central and East Asia, along the Silk Roads, winning steady numbers of converts. Among them was Burqa Khan, a grandson of Genghis Khan, said to have been moved by the piety of Muslim traders he met near Bukhara. Most Mongols initially held to their traditional beliefs. In 1258 CE, Burqa's cousin Hulagu led a devastating campaign into Muslim lands, destroying Baghdad and killing the caliph. Yet within a century, Islam would win the hearts of the Mongol realms. From Rus' to India, 3 of the great Khanates adopted Islam. In Southeast Asia, centuries of contact with Muslim traders also advanced the faith. Around 1267 CE on Sumatra, the Samudra Pasai Sultanate arose as a hub of Islamic learning and commerce. Meanwhile, in the Rum Sultanate of Anatolia, a new Sufi order, the Mevlevi, emerged, famed for the whirling dervish ritual in pursuit of spiritual illumination. The 14th century brought fierce struggles for the heart of the Muslim world: the Mamluks in Egypt, the Ilkhanate in Persia, and numerous Turkic states in Anatolia. From one of these would rise perhaps the greatest of Muslim empires. In the late 13th and 14th centuries, Osman Almort ruled a small Turkic beylik in northwest Anatolia. His successors, through a series of brilliant conquests, built the Ottoman Empire, centered in what is now Turkey. They advanced into the Balkans, conquering Bulgaria, Serbia, and Bosnia. Many locals embraced Islam, drawn by economic opportunities, legal privileges, and paths into Ottoman administration. In 1453 CE, Sultan Mehmed II captured Constantinople. The heart of the Eastern Roman Empire and Orthodox Christianity became the capital of an Islamic Ottoman state. In Southeast Asia, Islam's influence continued to reshape the region. In 1414 CE, the ruler of Malacca embraced Islam, taking the title Sultan Iskandar Shah and declaring Islam the state religion. The Sultanate's trade networks and alliances accelerated the faith's spread. By 1478 CE, the Demak Sultanate arose, the first major Muslim state on Java. Meanwhile, in Europe, Granada, the last Muslim stronghold in Iberia, fell to Christian forces in 1492 CE, ending nearly 8 centuries of Muslim rule in Spain. Many Muslims and Jews faced forced conversion to Catholicism and, ultimately, expulsion. In 1501 CE, Shah Ismail Farnort conquered Persia, founded the Safavid dynasty, and proclaimed Twelver Shi'ism the state religion, which is why Iran remains predominantly Shia today. In 1517 CE, Sultan Selim I of the Ottomans conquered Egypt and the Hijaz, becoming guardian of Mecca and Medina. He assumed the title of Caliph, which Ottoman sultans would hold for roughly the next 4 centuries. In 1526 CE, Babur, a descendant of Genghis Khan, defeated the Delhi Sultanate and laid the foundations of the Mughal Empire, which would rule much of India, a land with a Hindu majority, for the next 2 centuries. Yet signs of weakening appeared elsewhere. Muscovy, Russia, crushed the Kazan, Astrakhan, and Siberian Khanates. Ottoman sea power suffered a serious blow at Lepanto, and a century later, the failed siege of Vienna marked the limits of Ottoman expansion. Both the Ottoman and Mughal empires increasingly faced inner divisions and powerful external foes. In 18th century Arabia, a reform movement, Wahhabism, arose, critical of practices it viewed as deviations from early Islam. It gained political weight through alliance with the House of Saud, founders of the first Saudi state. The 19th century brought rapid European colonialism, targeting Algeria, Egypt, Sudan, and, by the century's end, Libya. In many places, Islam became a rallying force against Christian colonizers. Colonial pressures also helped spark Salafism, a reform current seeking a return to the practices of the early Muslim community. Some of its adherents would endorse armed jihad against those they saw as occupiers and oppressors. After the Ottoman Empire was defeated in World War I, the Turkish leader Mustafa Kemal Ataturk charted a more secular future for the new republic. In 1924, he abolished the Ottoman Caliphate, ending an institution the Ottomans had held for 4 centuries. The political earthquakes of the 20th century world wars, communist revolution, and decolonization redrew the map of the Muslim world. In August 1945, Indonesia declared independence from the Netherlands, becoming the nation with the world's largest Muslim population. As the British Empire receded, it left new frontiers in its wake. In 1947, the partition of India created West and East Pakistan. The latter would later become Bangladesh. In 1948, the new Jewish state of Israel was proclaimed in the former British Mandate of Palestine. In 1979, the Iranian Revolution overthrew the Shah and established a Shia Islamic Republic under Ayatollah Khomeini. By the late 20th century, historic ties and economic migration had grown Muslim communities across Western Europe and North America. Muslims became an integral part of the West's cultural landscape, even as new global tensions emerged. In 2001, the extremist network Al-Qaeda attacked the World Trade Center in New York. Suddenly, many in the West began to see Islam as a threat. Parts of the media and political class demonized it. A gap widened between how most Muslims understand their faith and how it is often portrayed in the West. Tensions linked to religious and political extremism persist today, alongside serious conflicts between states and some Muslim groups in places like Russia and Myanmar, ongoing persecution in China, and the intensifying Israeli-Palestinian conflict. These are not the first crises in Islam's 1,400-year history, a history marked by resilience and adaptability. Carried by merchants and conquerors, Islam spread from the Iberian Peninsula to Indonesia, uniting peoples and inspiring brilliant civilizations. Whether we view it through the lens of faith or history, the rise of Islam is one of the most remarkable journeys in our shared past. Its legacy lives today in 1.9 billion Muslims around the world. Thanks for watching. If you found this video insightful, please subscribe, leave a like, and share it with friends.